My name is Cormac Nevin, and I'm the energy engineer for Hvac Nutrition. Hvac Nutrition, what we manufacture is baby food or infant nutrition. We're a member of the Nestle Group. Nestle Group has about 500 factories all over the world, so you can imagine there's a massive need for standardization across every aspect of the food manufacturing business. What I'm going to talk to you today about is the standardized approach that Nestle use to highlight energy and water saving projects. This exercise is called Energy Target Setting and has 4 objectives. First one is identifying energy and water saving opportunities, providing stakeholder interaction and confidence in projects. So that's basically bringing the factory along from the operator level all the way across to the board level to make sure everybody knows exactly what you're trying to do. We also quantified and evaluated every opportunity, and this puts in perspective how big these projects are, how small they are, and how much of a priority they have to be on the factory's list. We also established an action plan for the next 5 years to achieve the targets set out in the overall opportunities identified. So the ETS, I'm going to go through a general overview of the process from start to finish. So the preparation started about 6 months in advance of actually carrying out the exercise. We went from baseline data collection, realizing our actual energy flows, stakeholder engagement, through to site awareness. I'll talk about the 10-day process, so it's a 2-week interactive process, so it takes a lot of time management from the actual site itself. I'll go through some of the projects then that we actually identified and the projects that have actually been implemented in 2015. So baseline data collection. So everybody's very familiar with their energy bills, gas, electricity, oil, water if you're in a municipal water supply, LPG, and we also looked at our existing factory performance on energy and water KPIs. So this is our KPIs that we track on a daily, weekly and monthly basis. The biggest challenge I think everybody has, whether you're an engineer trying to allocate resources or if you're a factory manager trying to identify opportunities for cost savings, for process efficiencies, is to understand where you need to put your resources. And the energy flows that we developed in preparing for the ETS highlighted very clearly where our major energy users were and the scale of the opportunity. If we look at 1% on our, let's say, our milk drying process, that highlights a far bigger chunk of our opportunity if we look at 1% on our compressed air. So the next part of the preparation was stakeholder engagement. So we identified a steering team. Steering team would primarily be made up of board members and senior management across your general areas of engineering, quality, health and safety, food technology. The ETS team then is the actual, let's say, the engine room of the exercise. The engine room would consist of internal members, which would be across process, engineering, utilities, automation. We had some market resources from Nestle in the UK, China, and we had business partners in the form of energy consultants, steam specialists, water specialists, and compressed air specialists. We put these teams together in their respective subject matters. So we looked at thermal, water, process, and electrical refrigeration. Each one of these teams obviously are working independently for a certain amount of time, but obviously with the integrated process, they're going to have to come together to justify the quantities identified as part of the projects. So putting together a schedule obviously, over a 2-week period, you're going to have to do a lot of chopping and changing to suit everybody's needs when you're looking at a senior level management down to contractors and consultants that have to be on site for the 2 full weeks. And you also have to have a budget for your boss. I've blanked out a few details there just because if any of you do go to the consultants we use, obviously they'll have their own price. The awareness on site, we would have started this in about 3 months in advance, so everybody knows exactly what is going on in the site for the 2 weeks and whose interaction we need. And that goes from the leadership team, which is the directors, down to the line managers who have to release their members to partake in our 2-week exercise, and a participant blocked out the 2 weeks of the calendar about 3 months in advance. So the process itself is an introduction to the site, because a lot of the guys who haven't been on site before won't be familiar with the process, but you need those guys to look at your facility, because the same eyes looking at the same problem don't come up with new solutions. So well, we put together a fairly substantial project timelines, and the first step of the process is week 1, where we set daily objectives for each of the teams, and we put together a post-it board where we highlight each of the opportunities that each team actually identifies, and we set a target for each of the teams to come up with 1 project a day for the full ETS. So you can imagine that's going to be 20, we have 4 teams, that's 5 projects per week per team, so we're talking about 20 projects. Then we put them on our scale board, which is Capex versus years of payback, and they are dotted across, and you can see, depending on how much the Capex is going to take and the repay, it's exactly how much it's actually going to benefit the business. And you can prioritize them based on the amount of budget you got to play with at the beginning of every year. The second week is where we really narrow down into the actual projects that we identified. What you need for a large business like Nestle is a very comprehensive description, calculation, and ROI for the accountants. So I don't know if anybody's brought a capital project to an accountant. They want to see exactly what the ROI is going to be. And by the close out of the second week, we had all of these together in a package, so that when I'm putting together my capital applications, I pull out of my register of opportunities, and I have a full portfolio ready to go. As soon as I have a question back, I know exactly where I have to go to get that answer. The ETS developed 33 projects. Those projects go across production heat recovery, product heat cooling heat recovery. We look at boiler pressure reductions, dehumidification and dryer towers, pump seal recoveries. I'm going to go into 1 or 2 of these now. So we looked across every aspect, whether it be utilities, process, and operation. So the first project that was identified was actually the biggest project. We have a CHP, 5 megawatt CHP on site, and we were operating in a BOOM contract, build, own, operate, maintain contract. Some people might be familiar with them, but we also have a minimum offtake. So that minimum offtake limited the amount of energy saving we could do in any 1 year. So every time we reduce a gigawatt hour, we have to pay a penalty. So the first thing we had to do is we had to get out of it. So the CHP buyout was a primary project, and that's going to be completed by the end of this year. Our next project that we finished this year was an in-house development and completed through our projects team, is a dryer Hvac optimization, where we looked at the dry-in tower demand for air, and the existing controls were fairly rudimentary, and we implemented a pressure and temperature control method. That allowed us to only supply enough air into the tower that was needed to be heated. Very simple and very effective, and we can see there that we actually saved about 2.5% of our energy on site. The water saving project then is probably one of the simplest projects that I'll ever do. and that is recirculating water from processed pump seals into a Hvac pump tank. That Hvac pump tank is used to pull a vacuum in our evaporator. 2.6% of our water savings. We use about 750,000 metres cubed of water a year, so we're a fairly water-intensive site. So this accounted for about 50% of our energy watering targets for the year. So to summarise the actual outcome of the project, the exercise, we had 33 projects, and the environmental impacts included avoidance of about 25% of our carbon emissions, 22% of our energy usage, 25% of water consumption, and the economical about €7 million Capex identified to achieve about €3 million actual savings, and a 33% reduction in our utility bill. Majority of that is through the CHP buyout. So if you have any questions, I think I went through that fairly quickly. So that's it. Thank you.